Welcome back to the Horde's Trollblood 25-point army to take on Dave at Mini Wargaming series. We're on to episode 4, Painting the Impaler, part 3. So this is the test model that I did all my experimenting on, which we're trying to replicate in this series of Painting the Impaler. So we're on to part 3, Trollblood Skin. So this is what we've got so far. So start off with some of the Formula P3 Trollblood base. And take 3 or 4 good helpings and then thin that down about a 1-to-1 ratio with, I use water for my dehumidifier, but distilled water would work as well. And just want to get a good even coat. I find that the pigments in the P3 paint are really good, so it often only takes 1 coat, even when it's thinned down. I think I had to do a couple just because it's going over the black. If you were doing over this white, you'd obviously be able to do it in 1 coat. But I found that I find thinning the paint down. I think I've talked about this before. I find that the thinning the paint down really helps it flow a little bit better, so I have a little bit more control. I know for the longest time I wasn't thinning my paints down, or I was thinning down too much, or I used a brush that didn't have the bigger bulb on it where it didn't hold a bunch. I found that the Army Painter brush I have here, which is the Regiment brush, is a great base coating brush for me. I really quite enjoy using it. I think I've gone through 2 of them in the last year though, so I really put it through its paces. So again, just make sure you get as even a coat as possible. And you can use any kind of blue. I mean, you could use if I'm sure there's a Vallejo or a Games Workshop equivalent. But again, I have a buddy of mine runs a store out in the east end of Toronto, and he stocks all this paint. So I figured I might as well get the actual proper blues. If there's any Trollblood players out there that have used the different paints, just comment below and let me know which ones you're using. So next I've added, to help with the highlighting, or sorry, the shadowing, I've got some the Formula P3 Sanguine base. Now this is like almost like a dark purple. And this is from if you actually look in the Trollblood book, this is how they recommend doing the shading. So what I've done is I've thinned the Sanguine base down a lot, so it's almost like a 2-to-1 ratio of water to paint. And then I've mixed in even more water, and it's made almost more like a wash. And so what I'm doing here is just paint the fine details, like all where the shadow's going to hit. And then you'll notice because it's really thinned down with water, it dries. And I'm not using a lot of paint on there. I remove most of it from the brush. It dries really quickly. And the reason I went with this color, and I don't know if you haven't seen them yet, Miniature Mentor which is a pay service, has a great introduction series where they talk about shadowing and such. And if you use a color, not just use grays or blacks to darken your color, but actually use something with a bit of a different tone to it, it really makes a big difference. So having that sort of warm, almost like a purpley, but there's a bit of that red to it, it gives it more of a natural look to it rather than just a dark shadowy, which I like that effect. Especially on the blue. The model they use in the Miniature Mentor one actually is a blue dog creature. So there's a lot of similarities between this and that miniature they use. So I really quite like the effect with this. And again, you can choose something else. You could choose even a green, like a dark green could give you another interesting effect as well. So basically focusing on the shadowing, so just getting the shadows in as much in all the crevices or where the light wouldn't be hitting as prominently. And because it's so thinned down, you put it on once, it'll give you a little bit dark. If you go over it 2 or 3 times and basically layer that over and over again, you're going to get deeper and deeper shadows. So certain areas I went back and painted over and over and over again. And again, because it's so thin, it dries almost immediately. So I figured I'd give this, I've only used this technique a couple times. This is I think the 2nd time I've used it, so I've still got some tweaking. I probably with some of the other details in the future I'd use a fine detail brush rather than using my base coat brush like I'm using here. And so now I'm adding a little bit more of the Sanguine base just to darken it up even more. and then going over again with trying to remove. I had to remove some of the excess because there was just too much on there. And again, just focusing on the places where the under of the muscle, close to the right at the top of the cloth, just to catch where the light won't fall, where you're going to see those natural shadows. And again, between the toes. I was thinking you could use the make your own wash with this. You like use the matte medium and do that as well. But I don't know if you'd have as much control with that. And I may do that with the Axer and see how that works, because I do have a little bit of the matte medium from Vallejo. So I've gone back to just the Trollblood base. This is the one that was about a 1-to-1 ratio, and just sort of going back and picking out some of the highlights that I sort of went a little bit too crazy on with the shadows, just to make sure that you're not losing any of the details. And it also, you can tone back some of the shadows that you've done. Like on the knee there, it went a little bit overboard, so went back and highlighted that. And you notice I switched to my detail brush here at this one, which I believe is a 0. So next in the highlighting, the first stage of highlighting, I've taken some Trollblood base and then the Trollblood highlight, and just added a little bit of the highlight into the base. Again, it's really thin at this point, so it goes on. It actually looks a lot. It's going to be a lot. I don't know if brighter is the word you want, but when it dries, because it's a thin layer, the base coat underneath comes through, and it doesn't. It not necessarily darkens it up, but it's not going to look as like it's such a sharp contrast as when you first put it on. I found that was a bit of a disconcerting when I first put it on. It looked like it was very sharper than I really wanted it to be, and then when it dried, it toned down a lot. So again, the way I'm trying to do my highlighting is I'm not highlighting each section individually. I'm sort of figuring out where the light's going to hit if the light source is from above. So you can see I'm focusing on the areas where the light would naturally fall. And apparently I can't keep the model on frame very well here. Apologize for that. And again, the nice thing about this is you just keep adding a little bit of the light, the Trollblood highlight in there, just to lighten it up each time, and keep going back. Now I know, I have to admit, on hindsight, if I was doing this model without filming it and worrying about the step-by-steps, I probably would have done a more gradual shading rather than some of the sharper here, and I probably would have done a few more layers just to make it look a little more gradient, almost like a wet blend. But because I was doing the filming, I opted against that. So, and because I'm only going for tabletop here, I don't want to spend too much time, especially since at this point I have just under a week before my game with Dave. Really off camera there. Okay, so going back, this is done the next day, or this is a couple days later. So again, the same idea, just taking some of the Trollblood base and some of the Trollblood highlight. Now I've managed to break both these lids, so I have to be a little careful with those. And again, thin them 1-to-1 ratio. I think it's even almost a 2-to-1 ratio. You want it fairly thin. And what I've done here, just to make it a little bit easier, I put the blue on one side and then the highlight on the other, and just slowly sort of mix them two together so you've got a gradual transition. That way I can sort of pick back and forth and go whichever direction, or from light to dark or dark to light that I want to go. So, and the camera unfortunately doesn't pick out it's a more of a gradual transition that you see than you see on the camera there. And again, just going to pick out the highlights. As you can see, I haven't really done much with the face yet. It's actually blue tacked on right now, so it's only on there. I went a little overboard on some of the highlights there. I have to go back and clean those up. Also, I found that it's been a while since I've done metal miniatures that have this size, and I noticed that the paint is flaking off a little bit, so I have to make sure that I do a coat of varnish between each of these layers, or then I'll have to go back and fix a lot of it. It's one of the things about metal miniatures I'd forgotten, at least at these size, that they're more susceptible to dinging and chipping. That's, I guess, one of the advantages of going to the resin model, is you're going to see less of that. And again, just focusing on the top part of the muscle range. I don't know if anyone else, but I seem to focus on one area for a little bit, move on to somewhere else, and then go back and catch stuff that I missed the first time. So it's the nice thing about this is if the paint begins to feel like it's a little thick, just add a little bit of water. You can bring it back in fairly quickly. I've used a wet palette in the past. I know some people like those, but I found with this, this is just as easy. And the wet palette, in the end, if I was doing a large number of them, like maybe when I'm doing the Trollblood, the Crow Warriors, I may do it then. But for just the one-offs, just using the little palette there, the regular palette's fine. And then lastly, I'm just doing some straight Trollblood highlight, or the Trollblood highlights with the highlight. So just going in there and just touching up the very tip part of it. Just going in and getting some of those fine details in there. So we're seeing that contrast that we want to see. And that brings us to the end of the skin. So thank you very much for watching. If you like the series, please be sure to click like and subscribe to see more videos. This one was a bit of a challenge for me because I wasn't really happy with the way that the skin was going into the last step. I sort of pulled it out at the last minute. Also, it's been a long couple weeks. I hadn't had time to do anything with the videos, so this is my getting back at it. I'm gonna have an update video shortly to bring everyone up to speed on what's going on. So thank you very much for watching. Click on like and subscribe if you want to see more. And if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, improvements, etc., throw them in the comment section below. I read every single one and I appreciate all of them. And we'll see you in the next video.